When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is Devoid of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, hit the like button and subscribe for future videos and updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. You can get access to any of my early content. Check out the Discord. This is the beginning of the bargain between an evil god and a villain, part 0. I'm completely redoing this fanfiction. The same concept will be the same, considering how I kept the title the same. And I'm keeping the same quirk he had in the previous fanfiction. Deku having a Gaster Blaster quirk. Let's get right into this. We're going to start our story off from the very beginning. The birth of Izuku, his birth, was quite normal. No complications. He was a healthy baby boy. Only thing you would consider to be out of the ordinary was when Izuku's eyes would slightly glow. And if anyone would pay attention from the baby's shadow inside his crib, you could see a shadow-like figure with very sharp teeth, smiling with a vicious grin. Izuku's eyes would occasionally glow green. It wasn't too noticeable, but if you weren't paying attention, you would miss it. The moment Izuku could speak, he displayed high intelligence. Izuku acted differently compared to other children his age. He wasn't interested in cartoons or outside activities. He spent his time reading as much books as he possibly could that he get his hands on. And that's not including the internet. He has limited access to the internet. Inko knows there's a lot of bad things on the internet, so she naturally tried to protect her son from the more violent and dark parts of the internet. Living in a world where heroes openly battle villains, so naturally there are plenty of detailed footage of their battles in the deep web, so she regulated what her son could consume under her watch. Officially regulated what he could see and what he could not. But she didn't dare limit her son's thirst for knowledge. Time passed. Izuku's strange behavior only increased. Lack of interest in heroes or quirks. At first, he showed little interest in quirks. Phil can immediately tell her child is no normal child. She still worries that her son won't develop any powers. She knows the world can be quite cruel for the ones who don't have quirks. Inko despises the very word quirkless, like there was something wrong with them, like they're unhuman. She knows Japan is too focused on powers instead of individuality. As Inko was in the kitchen, getting dinner ready for her son. Will be turning 6 in a couple days. Normally Quarks would manifest at that age around 5 or 6. She's a bit worried for her son, but Izuku has never mentioned it. He's more focused on learning than about what power he might or might not get. But despite that, she was glad that she took her son with her. When her husband got a better job in America, she would rather not expose her child to their Quark supremacy that seemed to be deep-rooted into the Japanese government. But Quarks in America are not so highly regarded like they are in Japan. They don't judge people by what powers they have. Surprising, Inko finds America to be quite peaceful compared to Japan. There's villain fights with heroes, but not as much in Japan. And adjusting to a new culture and country was difficult for Inko. After all, only language she knew was Japanese. But after taking a couple online classes, she got the handle of English quite quickly. She was fortunate that her son became bilingual. He's able to speak Japanese and English fluently. It's quite impressive for his age. The years progressed. Inko kept his high marks on all of his grades throughout his schooling. Izuku is currently in middle school. Izuku has always stand out because of his green hair and green eyes. His hair is not a common hair color that grows naturally. But a lot of people out here in the United States normally likes to dye their hair in all different colors. But despite how Izuku sticks out, he has shown no interest. On the outside, he seems to be a normal boy, but that's only on the surface. Izuku has always had an inner darkness, just waiting to be released. Izuku is fully aware what his quirk is. He might not have no interest in fighting crime, like those glorified peacocks called heroes. But that doesn't mean he hasn't trained his powers. He's never spoken about his powers to his mother. She knows he has a quirk, but Izuku had no desire to relay such information. Outside of the simplified version of what his quirk is, so they could register him. Even America have some sort of quirk regulation they have to register through the system that the government maintains. Izuku can only conjure 2 animal-like skulls that floats that can release a green beam of energy from their mouths. Or he can create a larger one. Summoning a larger version of his quirk would cost Izuku a lot more stamina to maintain it. And unlike Japan, there's no law against using your quirk in public. There's limitations for quirk use. Only to use in proper designated areas, or if your life is in danger, then you have the full authority to use your quirk to protect yourself. Clearly, the United States is more lenient when it comes to quirk usage without a license. Getting a quirk license is not strictly for heroes. Even average American citizens, if they have the talent, could get a quirk license. They just have to pass a physical and and paper test. Izuku might not have no desire to be a hero, but he still is fascinated with quirks. As he got older, he started to get a fascination with them, analyzing everything he learned about any type of quirk and write it down in his many notebooks that he keeps in his room. He copies everything about them, their strengths, their weaknesses, ways to improve, new ways to use specific quirks. Izuku is aware that Japanese heroes, he has occasionally caught the televisation broadcast of the sports festival that occurs in UA. He might not have no interest in the Hero Academy itself, but the powers they display piqued his interest, so he never missed a sports festival live broadcast. Naturally, it was broadcast worldwide, so Izuku was able to watch it when it finally occurs from what UA holds almost every year. Somewhere in one of the American cities, you could see a villain that's been injected with some sort of quirk suppressor, preventing him from using his abilities, as he was bound to a thick metal slab. It's basically like one of those metal tables you would see in a morgue. Light fixtures begin to flicker from on and off as a young man came inside the room, pulling some sort of cart with all sorts of sharp objects on top of it, whistling a catchy tune. Excellent. You're awake. I didn't want you to miss the fun. As he walked over to the slab table, he actually walked over to the side table, basically, in the room, and plays a old record in a old school record player, and put the needle on the record, and turn it on, as the record player proceeds to play classical music. As Izuku rolled up his sleeves, all the villain he captured glared at him. He couldn't speak because of the gag in his mouth, but he had enough strength to glare at the young man, only figuring out he's the one who knocked him out and brought him here for God knows what. And judging by the sharp objects on the small tray to the side, this kid definitely has nothing good in store for him. Now don't give me that look. This is nothing personal. This is just for educational purposes. After all, torturing is a proper skill to hone and master. Izuku was wearing a black face guard mask that covered the bottom part of his face, leaving his eyes exposed. As he pulled out that gag out of the man's mouth. Release me, you little shit. You don't know who you're messing with. If you release me, I won't kill you. Kill me? You wound me, sir. Truly. You wound me, as he placed his hand over his heart in a mocking taunt. You see, my villain friend, I could care less who you are. Get away with this. Even if you kill me, the heroes will stop you eventually. That comment got Izuku to laugh out loud as he threw his head back, laughing like a madman. That's adorable. Heroes, you think too much of your importance, villain. You're the bottom of the barrel, a small fish in a vast ocean. You're simply a low-tier villain. You won't be missed. As he rolled over the tray that had very sharp objects towards the villain. As much as I enjoy our little conversation, my villain friend, I'm on a tight schedule. I do apologize in advance. I've never done this before. Practice makes perfect. That's what my mother always says. Shall we get started, my new friend? Now, which tool should I use first? So many choices. I gotta admit, my friend, it was quite hard to get these. At least, a version of it. These tools have quite a history. These are all well-known torture tools. It was very hard to get my hands on these. After all, they're highly illegal. But who cares? But who cares? I'm torturing people, so being legal or not legal doesn't really matter. As he took several long, thin, sharp metal rods, about the length of a long needle, and slowly pierced the man's finger right underneath his fingernails, making the man scream out in pain. As he kept piercing the object right into his fingers, one by one. He couldn't even get to all 10 fingers before the man passed out from pain. How disappointing. Without hesitation, Izuku injected the man with more cork suppressor and began to roll his sleeves back down and roll out his equipment, shutting off the music and locking up. He'll return once he regained consciousness. After all, it's no fun torturing someone if they're not awake to enjoy the experience. He gave himself one look over in the mirror and made sure not a single thing was out of place, not a speck of blood was on him. Not a single hair out of place. Out of the doorway, going through the small hallway, then coming out a secret door in a old abandoned train station building that's been abandoned for years. The perfect spot to keep his captors and practice different methods of torture. He could freely practice here without no interruptions. Izuku might be kind only to his mother and father, polite and kind to others, to keep from people asking too many questions. But that was only the surface level. Under the surface, he's far more darker, ruthless. It's not about hurting people, it's about knowledge. He doesn't enjoy hurting people, but it's a necessary tool to learn more about the different things he's interested, like torture, considering he can't just ask someone about it, or searching online would raise too many red flags. And the last thing he wants is people to start asking questions. He'll definitely raise some red flags, and the last thing he needs is to deal with the drama that will most likely get them police involved. And he can't really get a mentor for torturing. He can't really fill out an application on the internet. So Izuku decided to kidnap unknown villains so they wouldn't be missed or noticed. They're a dime a dozen. The moment he got home, he greeted his mother. Our sweetheart, dinner is almost ready. Why don't you get yourself cleaned up? Sure thing, Mom. Izuku went upstairs to change his clothes into something more comfortable, joining his mother in the kitchen, and started to help her to set the table. Thank you, Izuku. You're a sweetheart. Your father won't be home tonight, so it's just the two of us. He has some meetings he had to attend to. It's easier for him to stay the night over his office. Tonight? Stood Mother. Makes sense. Judging from what if he left, he would not be able to stay long. Only for an hour or two, then have to head back to work. Makes sense, because of the distance between the two places. Father is under a lot of stress from work. Some important people from your father's work will be arriving soon, so they're making sure everyone in their department is working at max capacity. You know how your father is. He's a bit of a perfectionist. You're not wrong there, Mother. So, how was your day? Day's been quite nice. I got a lot of things done around the house. Ran a few errands. Prepared dinner for us. How you been doing? At school? I notice you've been leaving a lot when you get home from school. Everything's normal when it comes to school. I was just exploring the city on my free time. Just be careful. The city is quite peaceful, but like other cities, they have bad parts as well. Just be mindful of your surroundings. Very odd phrasing, Mother, but I will. I'll stay clear from those bad parts of the city. They continued their small talk and began to eat dinner. After mother and son got done eating, Izuku helped Inka with the dishes and clean up the kitchen. After getting a bone-crushing hugs from his mother, he walked upstairs to go to his room. The moment he shut the door, a very familiar voice spoke through his shadow. What is it, Zelik? The same twisted face that showed in Izuku's shadow when he was a baby appeared once again. As the evil outer god stuck his head out of Izuku's shadow with the same vicious grin that he always had on his face. I would be more careful around that woman. Your birth bringer. And what do you mean by that, Zelik? She's a lot more dangerous than she seems. You might have fooled her for now, but I highly doubt she's that stupid. She'll catch on. Deal with that when the time comes. Why are you being so talkative? Caught me in a good mood. I'm quite intrigued by your after-school activities. I might not know anything about such things as torture. As a outer god, I don't practice such barbaric practices like that. That doesn't mean it doesn't keen my interest. Seeing it performed has been quite interesting. That mortal scream was delicious. As his massive grin increased, making a pact with you has been most beneficial. As he stretched his head out of Izuku's shadow and reached around the front of the room, facing Izuku face to face, with his neck bent around Izuku's. A good amount of distance, but just to turn his head. Stares at Izuku seriously. And don't you think you have any thought of backing out of our little arrangement? It would be unwise to anger me, boy. You amuse me, mortal. I won't be fucked with. Amusing, Zelik. Truly amusing. I'll keep my end of the bargain. But remember, if it wasn't for me, your abilities, your quirk, would have never been stabilized. If I didn't chose to assist you in that such endeavor, your quirk would have destroyed yourself from the inside out. Your own power would rip you apart. As amusing that would have been to see, you're far more useful than that tragic fate. After all, your ability, what I've seen compared to the others in this world, yours, it seems a bit different, powerful. It was very unstable at first, but stabilizing your abilities was an easy task for such as I. As long as you keep your end of the bargain, we'll get along just fine, partner. Yeah, good to hear. Now, excuse me. Now that I ease your mind, I have homework to do. Very well. I look forward to see what you do next. I can't wait to see you when you finally break your chains, unleash the power upon your foes. Zelik slowly shrank back in and fades right back into Izuku's shadow. Izuku clicked his tongue in irritation. He doesn't know when Zelik snuck into his shadow. He appeared out of nowhere when he was 4 years old. To Izuku, Zelik has always been there. He's always been in his shadow, so it's pretty much normal to him. The deal was quite simple. He offered to stabilize his quirk when he got a little bit older, to notice the danger he was in, and his power, slowly becoming unstable, eventually would have killed him. He could easily inform his mother of his situation, but he chose not to. He kept it to himself. If he dies, he dies. But with Zelik's proposal, he agreed to be reincarnated into a new world, to do what Zelik wants, but he doesn't know exactly what that treacherous god wants. He was very vague about it, what he wanted done. He could either agree to the deal and form a pact with a clearly evil outer god, or die. It was quite a simple decision for him. He agreed. The day he made the pact with the evil outer god, who came from a completely different dimension. Only thing holding him back from doing whatever he wants, and fuck the consequences, was his mother and father. He knows he's not a good person, not in the slightest, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care about his parents. But he knows he can't continue like this, holding back who he really is. Izuku banished all the other thoughts in his head, and sat down at a desk and began to do his homework. It didn't take him long, about 20 minutes. After he looked through his work a couple more times, to make sure everything's absolutely perfect. As he went to bed, the next day, Izuku got up, bright and early, and did his normal routine. He changed into his workout clothes and started to run around the neighborhood. It's still dark, it's about 4 a.m. in the morning. Izuku finds his morning runs to be quite relaxing, and it helps him keep in shape. Of course, this was getting a lot more easier for Izuku, so he might have to think about putting weights while running around the neighborhood. As Izuku's definitely going to have to go at the pick him up at the store. There's a couple of sports gear in the city, or hero support gear, basically what I'm trying to say. He'll have to make a pit stop at one of them at some time when he's leaving school. But he decided to make his way back as he got into his house, into his kitchen, and took a fresh water bottle from the refrigerator. As he drank what water he needed, then he took a shower and got into his school uniform. After all, he attends a private academy. They have dorms. They have dorms there, but Izuku decides he would rather stay at home. He's never really used the dorm. He preferred to stay at his actual house, and not some dormitory with other people that would interfere with his other activities outside of school. Sneaking out constantly out of the dorms would get people asking questions that they don't need to be asking. He would have to kill someone to keep their mouth shut, and he'd rather not do that at this current time. He would most definitely attract the attention of the police, possibly a hero, and he'll rather not get tangled up with that at this current time. He's still far too weak for his liking. Izuku is currently making coffee and some breakfast for himself and his mother, as Inko is fully dressed to start her day. Thanks for the coffee, sweetheart. You're a lifesaver. Eventually, the time came where he had to head off to school. As Izuku said his farewells and got a text from one of his classmates, who's currently outside of Izuku's house. Izuku, of course, had to make friends to portray himself to be more normal. He greeted his classmate, who was driving an old muscle car. His classmate is far too young to be driving, but every time he would ask, he would always tell him family connections, and Izuku left it at that. Apparently, his family has some pull in the government, so he no longer pressed the issue and dropped the subject. Having political power does have its benefits. Not his cup of tea, but it's definitely useful. Naturally, when they arrive at the academy, Izuku is greeted by students and teachers alike. Despite his closed-off nature, he's well-liked around the school, quite popular, but he never really cared for such things. He just went with the flow of things. And coming from a wealthy family, from his dad's side, did help in his school life. The school is filled with rich kids with silver spoons up their asses. So he wasn't looked down upon like a commoner. Even if he did, he wouldn't really give a shit. Why would a dragon care what a sheep thinks before they're about to be killed? School officially started as he took his seat in the classroom and listened to the teacher, starting his lesson of the day. It was extremely boring for most of the time, because Izuku knew half of the stuff they taught from his own private learning when he's not at school. Eventually, the end of the school finally announced by the bell ringing, as he picked up his backpack and made his way over to his locker in the hallway. As much as he would like to get out of this building, he has a meeting he has to attend to at the school council, who he's currently the president of such school council. As Izuku's the school council president, There's several events and things about to happen at this time of year. He has to go over with the rest of the school council members. He walked in and saw his fellow council member. Majority of them were girls. There was a few boys. And the vice president of the school council is a very uptight girl who follows the rules too directly, never detort from the rules. In simple terms, she's a fun killer, a mood killer. She wouldn't know a good time if it hit her in her stuck-up face. But she was very effective in doing her job in the school council, making Izuku's job a whole lot easier. He would rather kill everyone in this room than to do more paperwork. As he sat down behind the desk in the large room of the school council gathering. All right, let's get this started. As Izuku sat through the reports from the different members of the school council, plans to raise money, organize club events, and so on. It was extremely boring for him, but eventually he got everything done. But eventually he had to head home. He wanted to stop by, check up on his prisoner that he has captive before he heads home. On his way taking the bus, he noticed a bunch of troublemakers. It caught his interest, as he saw the thug leading a student of an unfamiliar school. Judging by his academy uniform, it is a tad bit different compared to the academy Izuku goes to. This is interesting, partner. Let's follow them. And why would I get involved? You could always capture one of them. They're really asking for it, if you ask me. Bring too much attention. They might be thugs, but they'll definitely be missed if they went missing. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt to check it out at least. Izuku used the fire escape to get access to the roof of the buildings and follow along the alleyway, following the street thugs, only to see them selling something to the student wearing an unknown academy uniform. Watching for a few minutes, Izuku lost interest and went back to his hideout in the abandoned train station. It only took him 30 minutes to get to the station. As he entered the abandoned station and opened a secret entrance, as lights flicker on, illuminating the stairs going down. Once he got to the end of the stairs, he took his necklace that had a key on it, attached to it, and unlocked the thick metal door, leading to a medium-sized room that has several doors. As he walked through until he got to the room where his captive is being kept, the villain was already up, screaming, heavily sedated with drugs and cork suppressors. As much as I'd like to continue where we last left off, my villain friend, we're going to have to wait for such activities for tomorrow. After all, it's the weekend, and I'll have plenty of time to dedicate my time towards you, my friend. We'll have plenty of time to torture you at my leisure. Once he made sure his gracious guest is heavily sedated and make sure the cork suppressor was still in his system. And the cork suppressors should be still in his system, so it'll still be in his bloodstream for about 3 or 4 more days. Plenty of time He made his way home. It wasn't too late when he finally made it home, so no one asked questions. Where he's been, his parents just assumed he was still at school, at the school council meeting. That's the main reason why he agreed to be the school council president, to use as an excuse so he has more time to do his after-school activities without anyone asking too many questions, where he's been. As he ate dinner with his family, his mother and father, Hisashi, were present. Izuku kept the small talk at the minimum. His father and his mother were too busy talking with each other, preventing him from asking any further questions of Izuku's daily life. He eventually excused himself and went to his room. As he activated his laptop that had a live footage of the abandoned station where he placed all his security cameras, Zelik came out of his shadow once again. Why do you bother having security to that abandoned place? It's a perfect location to do what I can. That's the ideal place to make sure my activities are not noticed. And purchasing and buying the land was quite cheap. They were quite eager to get rid of it, so I got a good price. Mother and father didn't seem to have any issues with it, considering they think I bought it just because it's a perfect location to practice my quirk. It's out of the way from anyone. And the gate I built around the place, getting in would be quite a challenging task. They either had to pick the lock of the gate or hop over the gate entirely. But by then my security cameras would have spotted them before they got even further. And I can't go torturing people in my own house. That's not too smart. That's why I chose you. You've always been smart, clever, like a slithering snake. Don't worry. But a tad bit boring. But I highly doubt that will stay the same for very long, considering today is Friday. Friday's so fast, so soon. And if it's Friday, you know what that means. Another hunt. Precisely, I need to get more data in live combat with my quirk, and hunting down criminals is the best way of live testing my abilities against a live opponent that actually fights back. So what poor soul we're going after this time around, partner? Those street punks that were selling to that academy student. Definitely tell you, he wasn't buying the daily paper, either drugs or buying stolen property. I have no doubt whatever they sold to him was highly illegal. Izuku immediately began to use the computer to hack into the police database to do a wide search of any criminals that matched that description that he saw in the alleyway of the street punks. It didn't take him long to get a match. That was fast. Indeed. Interesting. Most petty crimes, but he's part of a large gang of street punks. I have no doubt majority of them have abilities. Unfortunately, they didn't list their quirks here. It seems to be didacted. A higher clearance must be achieved to go any further. I'm just going to have to find out the old-fashioned way. When Izuku's parents finally went to bed, that's when Zelik opened a portal. somewhere in the city. Izuku stepped through the portal without no hesitation, as Zelik sunk back into his shadow. When he came out the other end of the portal closed, as he's on top of a building. When someone can open portals at any time, is quite convenient when he needs to sneak out on his little hunts, or kidnapping villains for his experiments of torture. Izuku placed the lower face guard mask over the bottom part of his face, as a clicking noise could be heard that's attached to his face, as he pulled the hooded jacket over his head, concealing the upper part of his face, only leaving his eyes to be exposed, as his eyes begin to glow a bright green color, as he stares upon the city, trying to locate his prey. And that's where we're going to stop it for now. I'll catch you guys in the next video.